bravo. There you are. You're on testnet. You're issuing tokens, which was the first level of spinning up your own successful fork. But here you are with the platform. I mean, and nobody can argue that it doesn't work right now. It's right there.
Yeah. And I mean, it's in the works. And like I said, vendors who sign up for We Use RTM will get access to 3 different versions of it. 1, completely free on testnet. They get a free web shop with that. 2, fiat gateway for issuing the tokens. Like I showed with, it's not quite been finalized if it's going to be Alipay or maybe one of the local banks here, but Alipay is probably one of the most easy to use global portals other than PayPal.
Well, when they feel like being easy to work with.
Alipay have a specific category for web services or stuff like game money or that kind of stuff, basically where the transaction has to be irreversible. And a couple of the local banks here are looking at working with something similar, as opposed to, for example, PayPal, where you can reverse anything if you're unhappy enough.
And they can shut down any partner whose activities they disagree with, and they do often.
Yeah.
It sounds like, based on how you've laid it out and then your reasons for starting the platform and your initial client base or proposed first cadre of users, that Alipay sounds like a really sounds like the go-to choice.
It should be. It all makes sense. Our main problem would actually be if the price gets ahead of us, because we want to keep this at a level where I can market this to Indonesia, to a specialty coffee grower in Indonesia. If he starts having to pay like much more than $10 or $15 for issuing a token like this, I don't know how attractive that's going to be for him.
Sure. That does seem like a unique problem.
It is, because basically what we want to do initially is to get it all out there. We do have a backup plan for if that starts happening, in which case the platform is going to start issuing sub-assets and sub-tokens, which can reduce it somewhat. But as long as it doesn't happen within the first 3 months of launch, then
doesn't completely break your models, then
we're good.
Okay. Well, let's wrap up the conversation about proof of work. Talk a little bit about privacy. Are you actually adding consensus to the node network? Will this be a sort of proof of stake or master node consensus model applied, or will it primarily be used for services?
It's all integrated, really. Proof of work generates the blocks. The blocks get signed on to the network by a quorum, a Dash-style quorum of nodes. We're not initially going to be supporting any exchange listings until we have a working node quorum up and running, because we basically want to stay very, very far away from all the drama of, ooh, you had a 51% attack, and ooh, you now this, and ooh, you now that. We want everything in place for things to run smoothly before we're going to go and support exchange listings. I've actually had exchanges come and want to list our testnet.
It seems, I mean,
a bit premature.
Yeah.
A bit premature, to put it mildly. A couple of them weren't aware that we were still in testnet, and another one of them was talking about, well, you've got a lot of exposure. We've got some exposure, but I mean, not that much. And I mean, listing a testnet coin.
No, it doesn't make sense. When it comes to proof of work, the arms race tends to go, it seems, CPU, then GPU. Somebody finds a way to fit the algorithm onto GPU. Then somebody writes a bit stream, and then an ASIC is produced somewhere if there's enough financial incentive, liquidity, and such.
Yeah.
As far as Raptoreum, what size threat would cause you to fork from the current algorithm that you're using?
We have got several newer iterations of the same thing planned on the way to mainnet. The logic implementation of the same thing is going to change a couple of steps along the way towards the finished product with fully working service nodes and smart contracts. The problem is going to be the initial fitting of this onto GPUs. We want hobby GPU miners to be able to participate, because the value add from hobby GPU miners is enormous. They get out there, they talk to people, they tell people about their product, they talk to people at the office about it, whereas somebody who's running a 5,000 GPU farm or industrial scale mining doesn't really get out and talk much to other people because they're too busy running their business.
Yeah, well, and then when they're not dumping coins.
Yeah. And the value add from the hobby miner is basically what makes or breaks a project initially. We're going to do whatever it takes to maintain that. Once we've got a fully working product, then we're going to start looking at handing over more of the leadership to community, with feeding some of the developer fee into a DAO. We're not quite sure exactly how we're going to implement it yet, because we want to move away from, for example, master nodes only voting like Dash and a lot of other projects have implemented. We want miners to have a voice in the process as well.
Sure.
We haven't quite figured out how to do that yet, but once we do get there, the possibility is some form of slightly more advanced smart contract for voting. But once we do get there, we are going to be moving more over towards that.
Then it sounds like as far as governance, then it's a work in progress, very much a work in progress.
Yeah, it's not going to be a finished product until roughly a year post mainnet.
Okay.
We've just had a couple of new developers come on board and volunteer some time. They're both graduates from top schools, well, one from a top school in France and another from a top school in Japan, who are doing their final internships and have decided to volunteer with us. So where we're going to go from here is going to be very interesting to see.
Closing up the conversation about proof of work, it sounds like the sorts of threats that could come onto the network and perhaps create a need for an imminent fork, you're already planning to be ahead of by several steps.
We already have several slightly more complicated iterations that are going to come out as upgrades along the way between launch and finished product. And once we get to the stage of the product being finished, a functioning ecosystem, then it's no longer a threat.
Makes sense.
Not in the same way. Until then, we're going to be very dictatorial and say, not welcome.
Well, I can appreciate that. Typically, the projects that shout the loudest that they have perfect community governance and that they have on-chain voting and that they're perfectly decentralized in terms of leadership. Generally speaking, I don't know, look for the person you can't criticize in that network. You know who really governs them. But as long as you start the project by saying, no, this is our project and we want it this way, you've got a cohesive vision.
And I mean, we've got nothing to hide in that. If somebody objects to it, they're welcome to object to it. They'll have a voice in it once it's finished.
Sounds perfectly reasonable. Let's talk a little bit about privacy features on Raptoreum. What percentage of the transactions on Raptoreum are currently private on the test net based on user behavior?
Right now, none.
Is there a privacy mechanism planned for Raptoreum?
We are planning to include Dash's, what do you call it, mixing send from Dash. I can't remember if that's the actual if that's called zero coin or if it's another possibility is going with version 3 of that and using something like Sigma. It's not really a priority at the moment.
Okay.
And it's not really a priority overall because once we hit the finished product stage, you can do an awful lot of stuff for obfuscation using contracts.
Got it.
You can make some really complicated mixes using smart contracts, which will effectively kick it up to a level beyond what's currently available in terms of privacy transactions.
Okay, this would be a la Tornado Cash on Ethereum.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure if that's actually as hot as it's made out to be.
Sure. I think the recent criticism from Gavin Andresen is that 85% of users are definitely going to leak data using Tornado Cash.
Yeah, but not just users leaking data. Also, if you place yourself in a fairly centralized position in the network, there are ways to do that. Then you can probably record what everybody's doing.
Sounds reasonable.
For example, if you're aware of middle of last year, there was some disclosure on zero coin vulnerabilities in Zcoin and in PIVX. That kind of network positioning, and from that network positioning logging, and also recently the phony Grin paper. The problem with that is the methodology he outlines actually works, provided that he gets the transactions before they enter the blocks. If he's getting all the transactions before they enter the blocks, there's still going to be plain text directly. So the refutation of it from the Grin team wasn't quite correct, but with the right kind of contracts put together, you can work past all of that.
Okay. And it sounds like then this is not a high priority for the Raptoreum team to offer up as boilerplate contracts.
Not initially, no. Not for the first year. We're going to have masternode send enabled, but it's not really something we're stressing about doing or stressing about working with, because there are much better solutions once the whole product is working.
Sounds like, yeah, the core product, core market product is not related to privacy, but figured I'd ask because it is listed as something that the project is interested in implementing at some point.
It's something we're quite interested in, and I've been in and consulted on several very privacy-focused projects. So has I'm Legion. It is what it is. Yes, it's something we care about, but we don't care about it until we've got a solid way of doing it.
That sounds reasonable, and you're working on getting core functionality elsewhere on the product fully working. So it makes sense. As far as chain analysis, sounds like that's not a threat to what you're doing with the Raptoreum project overall, and we use RTM. But point is discoverability.
Not at all, because there's not going to be, if you do decent contract-based mixing, then basically you've moved beyond all those central points of networking failure. Unless you control a very substantial percentage of the master nodes on the network, then you're completely beyond that.
Okay, let's shift gears here and talk a little bit about personal OPSEC in terms of user behavior of some of the businesses that you intend to approach for use of the platform. I mean, bad OPSEC can destroy any system. As far as what you're working on, do you foresee there being a major need to push for education?
And that is something we are working on. And we are looking at, what would you call it, 2D explainer videos to get a fairly extensive library of them set up. I'm writing up very comprehensive FAQ documents for the We Use RTM platform at the moment. One of the very disappointing things with a lot of crypto projects, including top 100 ones, even some top 20 ones, is the really substandard level of documentation.
Agreed. UX and onboarding is where a lot of the industry fails.
Yeah, but I mean, also some of the top cryptos, I'm not going to name names, but they publish releases with build instructions that don't work. If you don't have something as simple as build instructions distributed with your code, what's the state of the rest of it?
You're hitting them where it hurts, David. You're going to break some hearts with that comment, but it's true.
No, but I mean, I prefer to have it completely naked, transparent, all out in the open. It gives people a much healthier perspective on what's what than a lot of the spin and FUD.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, the Moon Boys and the Lambos and all the other nonsense when it's like, hey, how do I set up a wallet and protect my keys?
Even some projects that say we have now implemented 51% attack defense, when in reality they haven't. They've just limited how far back in time a 51% attack can go. Checkpointing, for example, it doesn't stop a 51% attack. It doesn't stop selfish mining. It just stops it going back beyond a certain number of blocks, which means if someone is really upset and is for that reason 51% attacking, they can still cause havoc on the chain.
Not necessarily with greed as the motive, but simply sabotage.
Steal from an exchange because the exchanges will have set their confirmation numbers beyond the required checkpointing, but still can really wreak some havoc and do some damage.
Unreal. talk a little bit about wallet support and things to look forward to at launch. I've downloaded the wallet. It looks very familiar because I've worked with some forks of Raven. But as far as third-party wallet support, a la Zelcore, which supports assets from Ravencoin right now, has there been any vocal support from third-party wallet makers for your project?
We haven't been particularly looking. There are a couple of Chinese projects I've spoken to, Hebe, HEBE. I'm not quite convinced of the security of their product, though. It's a good product, yes, for some things, but for something with multiple layers, I'm not quite sure of really the suitability of it at the moment. We may be launching our own Electrum-based, but again, this is going to be closer to mainnet or post-mainnet. We're a small team at the moment, but this is something we're interested in.
Okay.
Want to move towards, but we're not really actively pursuing it as of yet.
Got it. So an Electrum wallet may be closer to launch. How about mobile wallet support? And I know it may be different in the markets that you're looking to launch the core product in, but certainly in areas of other areas of South Asia and areas of Africa and Central South America.
Then it's all mobile wallets.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, we are going to launch with some form of mobile wallet, but exactly which form, that's still a pretty good question, because with the added layer from the service nodes, many of the current implementations of mobile wallets won't work. So it may have to be built from the ground up, but we've got people who can do that. But mainnet priority number one. Okay. Unless we happen to have somebody else who comes along and joins the team prior to then.
Who is the mobile wallet whiz? They decide to bless the Raptoreum project then. Okay, so that's our community call to action on this video then. If you're a mobile wallet whiz, join Raptoreum.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into a little bit of personal opinion regarding privacy. If you had to boil it down to your favorite three, and this can be with the caveat, it can be an AFK, store of value or means of exchange. It can be just the agreement between two people, which is a form of currency and can be made private. But it can also be a digital currency or cryptocurrency. What would make your short list, top three that you think are indispensable private currencies?
Well, cash, precious metals, they would have to be the top two. Well, sort of the shared top one slot, really, because, I mean, it's only since the advent of fiat currency that you've moved away from precious metals as cash. So cash or metals is number one. Cryptocurrencies, well, there are several interesting ones on the market at the moment, newer versions of what's it called, of Zcash. Some of the sapling-only implementations of Zcash have at least some of the aspects I'd be looking for. They are still vulnerable to some of the central network tracking, but with the right precautions taken, they don't need to necessarily apply. So something like Pirate, R.
I was talking to Draith just 3 hours ago. So
okay. No, I rather like where they're going with it. They've also launched their Ghost Ship OS for you to very anonymously and from a very secure platform be able to access your wallet.
What do you think of that? Live distros that have wallets pre-installed. Is this a direction we should be going? This kind of makes intuitive sense to me.
To some extent, yes.
Okay.
If your main focus is privacy, the average user doesn't have technical skills to really ensure proper privacy. Something like a live distro of OpenSUSE or Fedora or one of the other more secure Linux distributions, hardened Debian of some kind, that only connects over Tor or only connects over I2P and then bounces elsewhere from there, and then your wallet is online from wherever that may be, preferably through some kind of combination of multiple factors, then yeah, for safeguarding privacy, that is the direction you need to be going in for the average user.
I don't know if you're hearing a 12-year-old cackle back there.
Okay. My little guy is still asleep upstairs.
And then conversely, we've begun a 4-day weekend, so I'm sure I will not sleep until 2 a.m. We're going to be watching movies, and Disney Plus has ruined us because now I can watch them all. So, okay, great. It sounds like then projects like Pirate then are maybe on that short list of cryptocurrencies.
Pirate are moving in the right direction. Zcoin are moving in the right direction. Not too many other projects are really focusing on core privacy any longer.
Okay, so CryptoNote in your mind they're not on the path anymore.
No. Monero is still there, but I mean, it can be slow. It can be. Ring CT is not really. If you implement Dandelion properly, it doesn't get logged. It can't get logged by network centralization. Then you've got something fairly nice going. It doesn't bloat. It doesn't create huge chains. I mean, Monero have done good things, but I mean, with the amount of forks of Monero, the amount of key correlation out there, it's just going to be a matter of time before in some bull market at some point, somebody sits down and really decides to go on a hashcat rampage.
Yeah, sure. It might be more rewarding than mining.
Yeah, but it would be. It would be. And I mean, how many forks is it Monero has had now with claims from the same keys? It's an insane number.
Jeez.
Every time you do that, you are exposing keys to correlation attacks. And the more transactions you have from the same keys on the different chains, the bigger the problem.
Okay, so then this in your mind is the key vulnerability, the largest vulnerability of CryptoNote as a spec, as a protocol.
No, there are chains that have avoided it. Bitcoin.
Okay, so forks of Bitcoin, a la Turtlecoin.
Bitcoin refused for the very longest time to basically participate in the whole forking process. Did it cost them a ton in terms of value? Yes. It cost them, what are they now? 7 or 8 Satoshis. But in terms of real privacy using Ring CT, they're unsurpassed.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure that some of the value may have also had to do with that pre-mine on Bitcoin, maybe.
Pre-mine on Bitcoin?
Nearing 80%. This was a bit of a scandal when it came to light.
Are you sure we're talking about the same one?
Yeah, first real world implementation of the CryptoNote spec, Bitcoin.
Yeah, Bitcoin.
So.
But yeah, some of it was the hidden pre-mine. Another chunk of it was basically an accounting error. There are several million, I can't remember exactly how many million, Bitcoin sitting in limbo forever, unless somebody cracks the keys for them.
Sure. Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, there was the pre-mine, but no, the pre-mine wasn't the real killer. The real killer of value was when they refused to fork away from ASICs.
Okay, so going back to your view on hobby mining.
Yeah, no, but not just that. It became so unprofitable for GPU miners to be mining Bitcoin at the point that it came down to smaller groups of CN ASICs solo mining. And you went from needing 4 or 5 confirmations to suddenly needing well over 1,000 because they were consistently overwriting each other's blocks because of bad network propagation. Ring CT is slow for proper network propagation.
Okay.
And they were really cranking some of these ASICs and basically wiping out whole slices of each other's chains. And it was serious ungoodness.
So
that caused the main drop in value.
Okay, could this then be part of the reason that the Monero team has committed to forking the proof of work algorithm every 6 months, is to avoid this problem?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. I mean, Bitcoin is only really valuable in terms of the keys never having been exposed elsewhere.
Okay.
However, Monero, with the huge number of hard forks they've gone on, what is it, XMO, XMC, I can think of 15 or 20 or something like that.
Yeah.
And we've got...
Yeah, Monero Cash, Monero Gold, Monero Classic Gold Cash. Yeah.
Wow Nero.
Well, Wow Nero, as I understand it, is meant to be something of a test net. There's a lot of goodwill between these two projects, and they tested out RandomX, for example. So
yeah,
it doesn't change your point.
But still, it's key correlation. And I mean, people have cracked wallets based on key correlation or overuse of the same address. Yes, it's far between. Yes, it's hard to set up, but it's still a very real concern.
Okay. I appreciate you going in depth on that with me. This is something that, for me, again, as a layperson, these conversations are extremely educational for me. And so I hope that by extension to a lot of the audience who may not be developers, that it helps to open some eyes.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Yeah, definitely appreciate that. Let's ask just a little bit. So you've got a couple of favorite currencies. Then it sounds like cash is still top of the list. Portable, fungible, easy, and then precious metals. In as much as they're easy to carry and easily divisible. So, and then maybe forks of Zcash, and it sounds like you mentioned like Pirate Chain, which is a fork of Komodo. So, adding some Okay.
Pirate is sapling only, so it's Komodo forked off. Zcash did some very nice things to it. Komodo is one of the chains I really like. They went well ahead of everybody else in working on distributed proof of work. I bought a little bit early on. I should have bought more.
Well, it's a high compliment.
And I mean, they've done really good, innovative things. Flow is another coin that comes to mind as having done some really nice things with distributed proof of work. I like where Safe Trade, the exchange, are headed with it. I severely dislike something like, for example, Veriblock. They're offering Depot as a for-pay service. Yes, Komodo are offering it as a for-pay service, but they were the first in the space and can do it probably significantly more securely.
Okay.
But I mean, the exact specs on that, we don't want to get into because it gets very, very meta.
Sure. But I'll send your regards then to JL, who I'll be talking to soon, and then to Jeff Galloway as well from the Safe Trade project. So
No, they're doing good things. They're setting up depot for free for chains that are interested in it. And I mean, that's a good thing.
Sure.
It's a good thing for many smaller projects.
What would you say to developers or to teams that say they're not interested in a federated approach?
If it works, why not?
Okay.
If it works with the product, why not? If it doesn't work with the product, and I mean, there can be several very good reasons for it not really working with the product, then no. I mean, it's whatever makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense then. It sounds like then maybe more projects should take them up on it. Maybe fewer should ask why go with the federated approach.
No, but you can see there are quite a few projects paying Komodo for notarization services.
Yeah.
Yeah, and most of them are fairly small and obscure, but it's still, why not? If it works, if it fits, if it's part of the overall goal and where you want to go to, why not?
Okay.
But at the same time, if you choose to go a different route, like penalizing miners releasing blocks late onto the chain, or chain locks, or some of the other iterations of that, these are equally valid approaches. It just depends on how it fits the overall package.
Okay. Yeah, great. As far as the list of your favorite privacy currencies that you mentioned before, how many of them have you used practically?
I've used Pirate quite a few times. Another one I'm looking at and did buy some of is Cut. Cut is proof of stake ring CT coin, and it looks to be going places. They've cleared up a lot of the mess from the forks they've implemented, and I think they look like they might go somewhere.
Okay, great. Hopefully the founders' ears are burning, because I'll be paying some attention and likely talking to some of the community about that as well. I'd love to interview their founding team. I've been primarily focused on privacy-oriented coins that have a proof of work consensus model, even partial, but privacy is the main through line. So
yeah, no, but I mean, Cut looked to be an interesting new product, and I would say that they are a serious contender for the throne that PivX has sort of wasted away to some extent.
Okay, well, I'll definitely reach out to them and see if I can talk to them. But back to Raptoreum and to David in particular, your favorite privacy wallets, if you have any. So say, for example, something like a Gamma or similar that preserves privacy while being a multi-wallet or a third-party wallet.
No.
Okay.
I generally don't believe in third-party products. I like to keep them at arm's length when it comes to my own stuff.
Okay.
I mean, hardware wallets, yes. If not hardware wallets, then preferably Electrum or Electron. Implementations that go on a laptop that only goes online using a specific mobile phone that doesn't use anything else, and then you switch it off. Again, I mean, that's about as secure as it gets.
Okay, that makes sense. And then as far as a favorite privacy tech, maybe something that most individuals, maybe the average consumer isn't using or maybe hasn't heard of. Could be a VPN, could be Tor, could be some kind of secure encryption.
I2P.
Okay. And in terms of a practical application of I2P, for the average consumer, how would they begin?
Well, a decent VPN client that you can set up to run with it. OpenVPN is probably the easiest to get to work consistently with I2P. I2P is several levels more secure than Tor. Tor is onion routing. Everything is layered, whereas I2P is a little bit more like garlic, basically. You do have layers, but then you go from layers. Once you hit your inner layer in your little clove of garlic, you get bounced to a random other clove of garlic. And you get bounced around several times before you go out.
Okay. So then it sounds like your advice to somebody who's just approaching this technology then would be learn how to configure I2P on OpenVPN.
Yeah.
Okay.
I2P is just about the best privacy card available.
Okay. These conversations, I mean, so far it begs the question, have you been looking at LokiNet at all?
No.
Okay.
No, not in the slightest, no. I use DynaWeb, have something called FreeGate. If you want a third-party solution.
Okay.
It's meant for basically operating inside China, inside the Great Firewall, and for consistently breaking through that. And it does.
Okay.
It consistently bypasses the whole internet censorship thing in China. It's been used by people in places with as closed nets as North Korea. And it's very effective implementation.
Okay, so if you need to do
try playing with it, and then look where your endpoint IP is.
Okay, sounds good. I definitely will. Though I'm gonna press the issue. I really think you should look at what the Loki team is doing out of Australia, and what they're doing with the LokiNet. If you haven't yet.
No, I haven't yet. I might. So I've had bad experiences with Australia.
Okay, well, one of their team members is based in the U.S. and he was a contributor on I2P, and they poached him by offering him anything. Right? I2P, being an open source project, was not paying. They poached him. And so he has integrated a bit of I2P into their privacy protocol running on service nodes on their blockchain. Okay. So it might be of interest to you, just academically.
Yeah, it could be. But I got hit by one of the very first exit scams from Australia, World Bitcoin Exchange, back in 2011. Then in late 2011, it was Crypto Exchange, or was Crypto Exchange early 2012. In between the two was Trade Hill. Trade Hill is the exit scam that everybody tries to avoid talking about because a large chunk of the Bitcoin Foundation were involved in running it. And scumbag number one from XRP was involved in running it as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we seriously need to have a separate session that is just naming and shaming. I mean, again, so without being patronizing, because you have these early experiences in the crypto scene, as far as the fireside chat to just ward people away from bad actors, I think you could do a lot of good.
Yeah, but I got burned on everything you could possibly get burned on along the way. I mean, the last time I was very active in development on a project, I'm not going to name that project. Someone can dig it up. It's ancient history. I did a multi-chain Ruby wallet for their exchange. I found out I'd sunk 2,500 hours of coding work into an exit scam.
Oh.
There is a certain person in Australia who, if I ever get my hands on him, is going to find out what it feels like to owe somebody 2,500 hours of hard, bloody work.
Oh, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, but it's one of the main reasons why I haven't been more active and more vocal. I developed quite a few faucets, helped on developing several faucet backends for Bitcoin and for a bunch of the other coins, and was reasonably active in that for a while. But yeah.
Okay, then it sounds like you've interacted with some of the worst.
Oh, but Pirate at 40. Trendon Shavers, the first Bitcoin Ponzi that was ever brought to court. When you had some of the securities debates going on with Bruce Fenton and Tone Ways and some of these people, they kept talking about the Shavers case, referring to the Shavers case. Yeah. I have positive feedback from him on channel Bitcoin OTC on Freenode.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you really have. You've kind of met. Well, I'm sure it was a smaller circle too. Then
it was a much smaller circle, much smaller scene. The space was a lot more cutthroat, a lot more intolerant of scammy stuff. I mean, scam coins didn't really kick off and run rampant until 2013, 2014. I was unlucky enough to really sink some development time into one in 2012. That was probably the first one, really major, successful one.
Okay.
They made off with around about $150,000 in 2012 Bitcoin.
Ooh. So yeah, provided they've kept it securely, they're still doing okay.
They're loaded.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's wrap up the conversation on privacy then, and just ask as a general question. Does yes or no? And I realize it's a closed-ended question, but does privacy matter?
Of course it does.
Okay, let's illustrate that. In your mind, what would a complete lack of privacy look like in the world?
There used to be an ancient, back in the early 80s, mid 80s, there was a role-playing game going around called Paranoia. The computer is your friend. Trust the computer. Believe in the computer. George Orwell on steroids, really. I mean, the more you take away privacy, the more damage is done, really, to human interaction patterns.
Okay.
The more you centralize control, because who's auditing the controllers? Who's watching the watchmen? And I mean, there are very many ways to take issue with that, and I think one of the best illustrations of it would be, I don't know if you've read any Ian M. Banks.
No, I haven't.
Okay, a Scottish science fiction writer. He put out a series of books on something called The Culture. It would start off extremely dystopian and then possibly, with luck, evolve into something like that.
Okay, so move perhaps. I'll have to catch up on my ENM banks then. I appreciate that you've given me something to add to the reading list.
But it's good stuff.
Okay, I'll have to circle back to you and say, all right, so moving from this into and complete that then. So let's flip things around and see if we can place a light at the end of the tunnel. And in your mind, if we do achieve, we reach the gold ring of privacy, we do it right. What would a total privacy look like in the world?
Ooh, that. That's an interesting question. Well, let's say you're viewing the world through a set of augmented reality glasses. You're going to be behind all kinds of layers of spam filters. And the second you turn just one of them off, you're going to be flooded out to the point where you can't use this device any longer. Because if you have total privacy, everything becomes opt-in. And as soon as you start opting in, it's going to be a relentless attack on everything. It's going to be spam from hell.
Okay, so it sounds like then we need, in your mind, it sounds like then we need to build up a tolerance and achieve a balance.
Yeah, there needs to be a balance. And if there isn't a balance, nobody's ever going to be happy.
Okay, that's very succinctly put. I think dare say even beautifully put that that it can't just be all one or all the other.
No, if without balance, you change the fundamental behavior of humans. I mean, we need groups for some things. We need private spaces for some things. You've got to have a balance of that. And if you don't have a balance of that, it gets dysfunctional one way or the other.
Okay. All right. A couple of parting questions. And the first would be, what is the best way for anybody who's uninitiated with the Raptoreum project to join in and help lifting the heavy load?
Hop on the testnet, do some testnet mining. We are going to, once we're past the problems with the latest upstream bug we found, once we're past the problems with that, we are going to be launching also an ambassador program for the platform, where basically you can earn limited amounts of RTM for getting people to sign up on the platform and to try it out. This won't be paid out until sometime after they've signed up and they've created a certain amount of testnet assets. But yeah, an ambassador program for that. Doesn't cost anybody anything. We're willing to incentivize it. But we do want to see activity from the people that sign up. So it's not just like being on Discord and you're in a server where they're running an invite campaign and it's spam from hell because all the bots are joining.
Right. You want something more resembling account management, but there's a bit of nurture.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. Why wouldn't we give you 3 tokens worth of RTM if you've gotten a business from anywhere to sign up on the platform and issue some testnet assets on the testnet platform? You've shown good faith by getting somebody on the platform. They've shown that they're real by issuing some testnet stuff. We didn't say that they had to pay for it, but we're willing to appreciate the marketing effort.
Okay, so great. And then best place for people to find the team and ask questions.
Discord or Telegram. I mean, I'm generally available on Bitcoin Talk as well.
Okay. But it sounds like, though, Discord, as far as this project, is the best place.
Yeah, it's the easiest. It's the easiest, the fastest.
Okay, and then I've got
fewest issues.
Great. I've got a final question. This is extremely serious. Actually, I keep forgetting the other one. I need to just for the sake of disclosure. Did I ask for, or did we arrange any kind of a bounty in setting up this interview?
Of course not.
Okay, great. I just like having that on the record for every interview.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it's somebody. If you wanted that, then I would have told you to get stuffed. It's very simple. If, for example, you were doing cover on a specific piece where you do an in-depth review for me on something like the We Use RTM platform, and it's being specifically done for us to use it as a marketing video, of course we would be paying for it. But if it's and I mean, that is what it is, because it's
sure.
But this is a different animal. It's not the same thing at all.
Sure. Marketing communications, not cheap, not free. Internal onboarding materials. I get that. I just there are some projects where no matter who you interview, there are going to be trolls that just say, this is a paid appearance, and there's some incentive, and I don't trust anybody because I've been burned.
Yeah, but they can have a look at my reputation. I don't mince my words. I don't really care what people think. I provide cold, hard facts, and that's it. The people don't like it, they can fuck right off. And it's as simple as that. Life is too short for the other stuff. I don't have any time of day for people who want to try to say that, for example, checkpointing is 51% attack protection. It's a load of bullshit. I called the guy who now runs, which exchange is it, Gemini, I think it is, when he launched Satoshi Dice, I called him a chain-bloating fucktard. And I stand by that to this day. I've given controversial opinions the whole way through, not going to stop doing so. And I don't have a problem with it. I am what I am. We are very, very simple on the project. It's cold, hard facts, and that's it.
Okay,
the rest, we really don't have a use for. I don't. Neither do any of the other people working on the project at the moment. It was kind of refreshing, actually, for us to get together the way we did, because we're becoming more and more like family.
No, that's great. That's great. So, parting question, last one, and this is very, very serious, David. Can I borrow 50,000 ETH in exchange for my new token, KEX?
I don't have 50,000 ETH. If I had 50,000 ETH, I wouldn't be sitting here. I'd be lying on a beach, sipping pina colada, having a couple of nice young nubiles perform unspeakable acts.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, shucks. Richard Hart makes it look so easy. I can't figure it out.
I lost an incredible amount of money back then on Mt. Gox. And the only thing I came away with from that and the divorce was half a mining farm of outdated GPUs.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Not even your shirt, just the GPUs.
Yeah, it is what it is. And I'm doing reasonably okay now.
Well, glad to hear that. I appreciate your time. And without further ado, I should probably end the interview, but I definitely appreciate your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'd love to chat again some other time. Maybe a very different topic where we can meander a bit more and talk more about some of the war stories, and maybe even off record, maybe not name and shame, but just kind of talk about your experiences to date, because I find them fascinating.
So, sure.
So very much appreciate your time. Very much appreciate you talking about privacy today as the topic du jour.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see and hear more about Raptoreum hitting those milestones on the roadmap.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be on the show with you.